These people that I say I thought were close to me were never really close to me. They were shiesty. They were snakes. Um, so really, how much betrayal can someone have that's never loyal to you? Anyways. Hello again, everyone. So, today's video is how to discover trauma and its effects on you. I think the title's going to be a bit different just so it's more searchable, but that's really what the topic is I'm discussing. Like, of course, the topic, like, I'm not trying to gaslight y'all and clickbait y'all. I'm just like, I need to make sure the title I use is searchable so that people actually find my video. But we will be discussing how to discover trauma and its effects on you and how to work through that trauma. So I also want to go ahead and do a little disclaimer that if the video is like moving like this back and forth, it's because I'm holding my tripod up instead of like letting it stand, because it won't stand by itself right now. But this video will be pretty quick, so I hope you guys aren't motion sick from it, but here we go. I'm literally just gonna jump into it. We have 8 steps. Number 1 is get into the habit of thinking with perspective and reflection. And that really means, first of all, I have a whole video about it on my channel. It was my very first video. I speak about it in detail, about perspective and sacrifice for your peace. So definitely check that video out. It's in the cards right now. Check it out. Okay. And then another thing about that, I will give you guys a little brief what that means. So perspective really has to do with how you see your experiences in the world and how reality is usually and sometimes a lot different from how you experienced it. And I'm not talking about like when you're in a situation, I'm not talking about how when you're in a situation and you know something happened and then somebody's gaslighting you and they're like, no, that never happened, I didn't do that. I'm talking about when okay, I'm gonna use an example from like something I've experienced. So in the past, it was always my like thinking and my perspective that if someone didn't message you back or text you back, that like there was something wrong, you did something wrong, like as in me, I did something wrong, that's why they're not texting me back, something like is off with like me, I'm doing something wrong. And perspective lets you know that literally nothing is about you. Other people, and when they do weird stuff, when they on some weird ish, that is not about you. It's literally about them, their trauma, and the things they need to work through. It has nothing to do with you, your value as a person, your worth, who you are. And that's part of perspective. So that's number 1. Number 2, let me see. Number 2, because in number 1, you have to like reflect. And part of that reflection is making sure you have the right mode of reflection. So reflection is really just after the situation happens, can you go back and really assess what really happened, the reality, or is it really only ever going to be in your perspective in your mind? Can you assess from an unbiased view the events that happen? Or are you only going to be talking about how you feel and how it made you feel? Because those things are important, but they're different from what happened. Your feelings are not what happened. Your feelings are what you're feeling because of what happened. So different reflection modes include meditation, journaling. Maybe you can do, some people use like this YouTube as a reflection source. They talk straight to the camera or to someone who they know will just listen and not really add any commentary, and it helps them process things out loud. Reflection is really processing. It's literally just making sure that when you downloaded that document and you try to upload it again, that it's processing in the same format, it's processing in the same font, it's making sure all the colors are correct, everything is supposed to be where it's supposed to be. That is what reflection is. Reflection is making sure that your reality, what you soaked in, is exactly what you put out, what you really thought, and what you really thought happened. I'm trying to think of some other modes of reflection for you guys. A lot of people actually also use lucid dreaming as a form of meditation and reflection. And really, lucid dreaming and meditation are super, super close, because meditation, like true meditation and not just journaling and keeping up with your mind, true meditation almost puts you in a dreamlike state. It almost like, it's like being half awake and half asleep sometimes. That's not my preferred method of reflection. My preferred method of reflection is journaling. I prefer to journal, and I also speak out loud to myself. I don't necessarily speak out loud to other people, but that is something I'm working on. I want to be closer to the people I'm already close. I'm not gonna say close, because we are close, but I want to be able to be more vulnerable with those people I am close with, and be able to tell them the things that I'm thinking in my thought process. Of course, not everyone. I have boundaries at certain levels, but there are people in my life that I'm like, Zaria, you could be giving a bit more in this friendship or this familial relationship or whatever. You could be giving a bit more vulnerability. You could be giving a bit more what else? How else would I describe it? A bit more, I honestly just say vulnerability and transparency. Vulnerability and transparency. And that's something I'm working on, but it's part of my reflection. I do reflection on that very often because I know it's something I'm working on, and I know it's something I want to get better at. Okay, number 3, you need to find what helps you think things outside of your perspective. So by that, I'm not just talking about the reflection process, because the reflection process, like I said, is the processing to make sure everything uploads correctly. But this step, trying to figure out what helps you think outside of your perspective, is about being able to do your reflection. Are you even able to think outside of your perspective? Can you even imagine possibilities other than what you think or what you would do or what you understand? Can you expand your understanding, basically? And I'm gonna put my notes in front of me so I don't keep looking to the side. Okay. So what helps you think about things outside your perspective? Okay. One way, or I'll just talk about 3 different things to help yourself think outside of your own perspective. You can imagine the situation or the person that the situation was in. You can imagine them as someone you genuinely care about, and you would give the benefit of doubt. And by that, I mean, if they do something, you know it's for a good reason. And being able to think of a situation in that manner helps you come up with good reasons that it could be. And once you come up with those reasons it could be, you've opened your horizons, because you weren't previously thinking about those. You weren't like, well, maybe they're just, I don't know, busy. or maybe they need some time away from their technology right now. I'm talking about my scenario with when people wouldn't message back. Maybe they're busy, maybe they couldn't message back right now, maybe they don't know how to respond, maybe they're honestly not the best communicator. Like, these are different reasons someone wouldn't reply. And of course there are millions of more, but as someone in the past who really genuinely thought the only way someone wouldn't respond to to a message that I've sent to them, or someone in my life, the only way they wouldn't respond is if they're dead, busy, or they don't want to talk to me. Like, they hate me. They don't want to talk to me. They don't like me. They hate me. So with that thinking, I had no perspective. I couldn't wrap my head around why someone would just not message back, especially if they're the ones that started the conversation. But that's a whole other thing. It just took me taking myself outside of that perspective, and honestly, my first step wasn't necessarily thinking outside of the perspective. My first step was realizing that it had nothing to do with me. Whatever it was, it had nothing to do with me. And that really, like, when you come to the realization that the things people do that hurt your feelings have nothing to do with you and everything to do with them, it really lifts the weight off your shoulders. It really makes it so that when they do those things, you can either say, you know what, I don't want this in my life, no thank you, or you can say, I'm not gonna let that bother me because I know what it is. I'm good. I know what it is, I'm not gonna let it bother me. And then the other two ways, you can think of different ways the situation could have gone. So maybe play out how, okay, so I wasn't messaged back, right? If I wasn't the person, actually that's the first step. Not first step, that's the first option. So if things played out differently, let's just say maybe they answered back, but the answers were like short and they didn't feel connected and engaged in the conversation anymore. Let's say that happened. Does it change how they feel about me? That they did that they change whether they respond or whether they gave me short answers? I don't know. But the thing is, if I don't know, that means they didn't say it. If they don't say it, then what else can you really do? If they don't say, oh yeah, by the way, I hate you, why on earth would you think they hate you? But like, people really are, a lot of the times, some of us have been through so much and so many like aggressions and so much trauma in the past that we recognize the tiniest of changes in people's behavior. And sometimes that has nothing to do with us. In the past, it may have been a past partner, maybe your parents, maybe friends you've had before, that everything would be fine, and then all of a sudden there's a shift, there's a change in their attitude towards you, and then they feel like everything is your fault, and now they're starting an argument. But that is not everyone, that is not the world, and that is not how it should be. Like, that isn't okay. And being able to come to the realization of that is also something that can help you with your perspectives. The third kind of way is to start analyzing cause and effect behavior. But let me make sure before I say this. Yeah, another way is to try to figure out cause and effect behavior. Like, what actions could someone else have taken on this person for them to start acting like this, basically. And I'll delve into that later. I believe it's number 7 and 8. So, and those are the last two. All right. We're moving on to number 4. Number 4 is learn to understand human behavior. And I'm also going to talk about cause and effect a little bit here too. So the cause and effect of human behavior, it's not, for most of us, especially if, like I said earlier, you've experienced some trauma with other relationships in your life, it's not too hard to understand human behavior and the causes and effects of it. But if this is something like new to you, or it's something that you kind of struggle with, cause and effect behavior can kind of be like super unpredictable. You can be like, well, how does that even lead to that? So, and it's also, you don't want to like be trying to play psychologist. Of course, like we're not all out here being psychologists, getting our doctorates in psychology and psychiatry. We are just humans observing human behavior. However, that's really what psychology is. Humans observing human behavior. They just have resources and funding to do full lengths of research and things like that. And educational credibility. And anyways, getting into the causes and effects of behavior, I think you can start with, the best way to like try and figure it out is to understand the effects of society from the harms that society has done to itself. So let's talk about, okay, we can talk about sexism and how they are always told when they're boys that they need to be tough, they can't cry, they need to suck it up, they're a man. If you're gonna cry, that makes you a girl, you're not a man, right? That's the cause. The effect is that these boys grow up into men who cannot express themselves, who can't tell people what they need or what they want, who probably only have one emotion, which is anger, because that's the only emotion that's acceptable for men in society. That's the effect. So start with thinking about social constructs and the way society has been affected by society's ideals. And that should help you. And if it doesn't, get down in the comments. Ask somebody what else can help. Get down in the comments. Because we're here to help each other. I'm not just here to help y'all. Y'all are here to help me. I'm looking for free advice. Y'all are here to help me too. So yeah, we're literally all here to help each other. If you don't know how, ask in the comments and I swear somebody will answer, even if it's me and I had to research the answer to give it to you. Like, someone will answer. All right, number 5. Your actions have a lot more to do with your past and your inner child than you think. And understanding that also helps you understand the causes and effects of other people and their behaviors and putting what they do into perspective. Literally, all of this builds on top of each other, and it helps advance each of these skills. Your inner child, if you were always told that, or let's say this, if you grew up with one other sibling, let's say you grew up with a sister and you're also a girl, and they're always saying how pretty she is. Oh my God, she's so pretty. Oh my God, your sister is so pretty. Oh my God, your sister's beautiful. Don't know what happened to you, but your sister's beautiful. Look at your sister. Why did you tell your sister she's pretty today? Because she is. Look at her. And she always takes care of herself. She's always done up. You know what that does to you? It tells you that you're ugly. That literally tells you and your subconscious and your brain that you are not worth looking at. Nobody finds you attractive. You're hideous and nobody will ever want you. The cause is them telling someone else and never validating you and your feelings, because as children, we need that. We need that in our lives to be able to understand how the world works. It's part of learning how the world works. that validation, so that when we're adults, we don't have to seek out that validation in unhealthy ways. We don't need to seek it out at all because we validate ourselves and we know. But when you're a child and you're learning how the world works and no one is validating and basically saying, yeah, that's how the world works behind you, then it's affirmed that what you say is definitely not how the world works because nobody agreed with you. It's like when a kid is 5 and they're like, mommy, is the sky green? And if mommy just says, yeah, baby, the sky's green, baby is gonna think the sky is green. If mommy says, no, baby, the sky is blue, then baby's gonna think the sky is blue. Okay, thank you, mommy. Because parents and the people who raise you, they have the authority to shape how you see life. They have the authority to shape how you see the world. And that's really important to know and understand within yourself, because if you can't understand the effects that things in your life that have happened have had on you, then you can't really heal the trauma or any other thing that has happened to you because you don't even know where it came from. It's like trying to fix the symptoms of something without actually trying to treat the disease. It's just gonna keep coming back. All right. Whew. Okay, number 6. You need to understand I already said that. You need to understand the concept of not everything is about you. I guess I'll like brush up on it just a little bit more again, but not everything is about you has to do with, everything is usually about everyone's childhood trauma. Everything is usually about trauma in general that they've received. When somebody is acting wonky, acting weird, acting flip, like, usually has nothing to do with the person standing in front of them and everything to do with something that's going on internally, something that's happened to them in the past, and they haven't necessarily healed from that. It's showing back up, it's rearing its head, it's causing negative effects in their life because they never fixed it. All right. Whew. Number 7. Find the coping mechanism, then say what could have caused that. And by the coping mechanism, I mean the effect. The way that people go about life, based on something that has traumatized them, is a coping mechanism. Whether it's healthy or not, it's a coping mechanism. It's something that they do to keep themselves safe or to feel comfortable or to feel like they're being socially acceptable in life. It is a coping mechanism. Okay, so an example could be like, you know how people always talk about pick me behavior? Pick me behavior is when someone always needs to be the center of attention, or they always need someone to validate what's going on in their lives. They need someone to make sure that, they need someone to basically reaffirm and affirm everything that they do and admire them for it, or not necessarily admire, but acknowledge them for it. They need acknowledgement, and the cause is they never had that acknowledgement, or they always saw someone else receiving that acknowledgement. So that's kind of how you figure out effect, cause, coping mechanism to trauma. Effect is to cause as coping mechanism is to trauma, basically. Something that I personally was finding out about myself as a coping mechanism, I say recently because life is long compared to like 3 or 4 months, but I'd say 4 or 5 months actually. 4 or 5 months, for the past 4 or 5 months, I've been really trying to, like I said, let the people close to me in a lot more and trust. And my coping mechanism is literally waiting until I know without a shadow of a doubt, literally with no doubt ever. And the thing is, my brain is like, you can never be 100% sure. So I wait until I have I have no doubts that someone would ever betray me or hurt me based on the information and the trust I give them. And when your thinking is like that, plus saying nothing is ever 100%, you never trust anyone. You never let anyone in. And that is something that I'm working on. I had to figure out. I was like, now, where did this even come from? My thing is also coming up with this random surface level reason that makes sense, but it's not actually pertinent to my life and me. Like, it doesn't actually fit. So my trust and like trying to figure out where that came from, I always thought that it was, what did I think it was? I don't even remember what I thought it was before. Let me think about that and I'll tell you guys what I know it is now. My coping mechanism of not trusting came from when I did finally decide to trust someone. They literally always betrayed me. Genuinely always. I always ended up feeling betrayed at some point in time. And I said feeling betrayed and not just they always betrayed me, because I did also say that. But I say feeling betrayed because sometimes these people that I say I thought were close to me were never really close to me. They were shiesty. They were snakes. So really, how much betrayal can someone have that's never loyal to you? Anyways, yeah. And then what I used to think it was, I used to think that it was only, because this is a contributing factor, but it's not the main thing. I used to think that it was only because no one ever gave me room to talk about myself. And by that, I mean, you know, when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, oh, how was your day? And they tell you about your day, and then they don't extend the same courtesy and they don't really care to know about you. That happens. That used to happen to me a lot. And it was also a bit like, it was also a bit extra traumatizing because I was the person that was like, okay, that's like, it's fine that the person who says they care about me doesn't really care to know what's going on in my life, because I care to know what's going on in their life, and that's all that matters because I care about them. Girl, what? They said they care about you, so why are they not showing it? See how that doesn't add up? It's just not making 2 + 2 = 4. It's giving 2 + 2 = fish. That's what it's very much giving. So we had to back it up. We had to be like, okay, let's figure this out, because we can't keep going around life like this. Because I would literally go through like bouts of depression and like panic attacks and be like, nobody cares about me, nobody loves me. If I disappear right now, nobody would even notice for like 3 weeks. I would literally, like, I would go into a season of depression because of that, because of those feelings and because of the way that I was feeling about that. But that was only a portion of why I genuinely felt like I couldn't trust people. That wasn't why. That brought on a whole different set of issues. But that wasn't the reason why I felt like I couldn't trust people. Okay, so also that tip, number 7, I'm also saying make sure that you dig deep enough to understand what is really going on. You can't just settle on the first answer that sounds nice. Okay, number 8, our final one. If finding the coping mechanism then going to the cause of the issue doesn't work, start from the cause of the issue and go to the coping mechanism. So for me, I'll give a different example than the first 2 examples I gave. I had undiagnosed ADHD for basically 21 years. I got diagnosed in like, 20 years. I was undiagnosed with ADHD for 20 years. And they say, like, all the statistics are like, yeah, adulthood, you usually grow out of it. Baby, this shit got worse. Excuse my language. It got worse. It got so unmanageable. And I was like, I literally, once again, was like, I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm never going to be doing anything great in life. Like, I can't even function in society. And it's because society was not made for me to function in it. Society was made for other people to function in it, neurotypical people to function in it. And it wasn't made for me, but nobody was telling me that. So I was going around trying to literally, like, my coping mechanism for this was to fill my schedule up as much as possible so I didn't have time to forget about anything. You can't forget about anything if you're always doing something. What can you forget about? You know you're always doing something. Like, that was my coping mechanism. And it was an unhealthy coping mechanism. It was something that I detested and I will never go back to. I cannot do that. It was rotting my spirit and my brain away. I cannot do that. Which is also why this conference is beating me. Like, these are long hours. I sleep for 10 hours. 10 hours a night. That's how long I sleep. If I'm waking up before 7 o'clock and I'm getting home after 10 o'clock, that means I'm away from my house for 15 hours. And I really only have 9 hours in between those. And I still have to shower. I have to make my breakfast or my meals if necessary. I have to actually take care of my pets. Like, I have work and homework to do. I'm sitting up filming this YouTube video and it's 11 o'clock, but I have to be up at 7 again. And I was literally doing this. I would literally stay up until after, like, 11 was kind of when I was like really, really done with school. And then I would hang out with my friends. This is in college. I would hang out with my friends because my sanity needed that social time. Otherwise, I would definitely implode. I needed the social time. So I I would be with my friends until like 2, 3 in the morning. Then I'd have to be up again for an 8 a.m. class. But I also, like, this is also the time period where I wasn't taking 2, 3 hours in the morning to get ready for the world. I was taking 10 minutes to get ready for the world and leaving my house. So I would wake up like 15 to 30 minutes before to give myself, you got to give yourself a little time to fall back asleep, wake back up. But I would give myself literally like 10 minutes to get ready, leave my house, be gone for I was gone for forever back then. But right now I'm gone for 15 hours and I've been thinking back on it this whole week and I'm like, I cannot believe I ever did that. And I cannot believe I ever thought that was okay for me. Because it's not. It's not healthy. It's not okay. And it may be necessary for some people, but the fact that it's necessary is also not okay at all. Not okay. And it attests to society and how society views people's time. Specifically, the workers' time. But that's a whole nother video. And comment below if you want to hear it. Because I will give it. I will give it. Okay. But yeah, my bad. I circumvented. My coping mechanism, I couldn't figure it out from the coping mechanism. I figured it out from getting my ADHD diagnosis. I was like, no, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I could have had a treatment plan this whole time? And by a treatment plan, I don't necessarily mean medication. Medication does not have to be included within your treatment plan if it's not right for you. My ADHD meds, I just can't. They turn me into somebody I don't even know. And then I feel like a robot and I feel like somebody else is moving my body. And I can't do that. So ADHD meds are not within my treatment plan. What's within my treatment plan is making sure I have a set routine that keeps me regular and keeps me being able to accomplish my necessary tasks. I make sure I implement me time, personal time for me to do whatever I want, almost whenever I want. My schedule is flexible enough for me to move something and be like, but I kind of want to do it later instead of now, so I can just rest at the end of the day. Things like that. So yeah, my treatment plan doesn't necessarily include medication, but the fact that I didn't have a treatment plan before was the cause of me having this unhealthy coping mechanism. Nobody, like, me not having that diagnosis was extremely detrimental. That was a trauma. Like, it negatively impacted my life. Yeah. That is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really hope you learned something. I know I did. I'm glad that you guys are here watching and taking part in this. It means that I know I'm not the only one. There are plenty of other people, but I just am really glad that people are interested in healing themselves, even though they're not the ones that did the damage to themselves. That's really kind of the suckiest part about trauma. You usually aren't the one to do it to yourself, but it's your responsibility to heal it, to be of use to yourself and the world and anyone you care about. You have to heal yourself. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please comment below the things I said to comment. Make sure it's all in the description. Everything I say to comment is always in the description. You don't have to rewind to be like, what did she say again? And you don't have to necessarily pause in the moment of the video to be like, let me make sure I comment now so I don't forget, which you can still do if you want to. Comment multiple times. It's nice. It does something for me. It's great. Boost the video. But yeah, all the things you should comment will always be in the description box. But yeah, if you like this comment. If you like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe. And once you subscribe, hit the bell notification. You'll know every single time we upload, which is every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I'm just so thankful. Thank you for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful day. All right. Goodbye. I'm literally just gonna jump into it. We have 8 steps, so